The veterinarian who treated your dog last week might not actually run that clinic. The emergency room you visited might be owned by an investment fund headquartered 3 states away. The apartment building you rent in might be one of thousands owned by a single financial firm you have never heard of. This is not a coincidence. It is one of the least discussed shifts in the American economy over the last 2 decades. It is called private equity, and it has quietly bought its way into nearly every industry you depend on. Private equity firms raise large pools of money from wealthy investors and institutions, then use that money, combined with significant borrowed debt, to buy entire companies. The playbook is to acquire a business, cut costs aggressively, sometimes sell off assets, and resell the company within roughly 5 to 7 years for a profit. The firm makes money regardless of whether the underlying business actually gets healthier in the long run. For decades, this strategy was mostly confined to large industrial companies and retail chains. You may remember the casualties: Toys R Us, Sears, RadioShack. Each was loaded with debt by private equity owners and eventually collapsed under that weight, while the firms involved still extracted profits through fees and dividends before the companies failed. But starting in the 2000s, private equity began moving into a different category entirely: the essential, unglamorous services people rely on every day: veterinary clinics, dental practices, emergency rooms, nursing homes, apartment complexes, even funeral homes. The logic was simple. These businesses are recession-resistant because people need medical care and housing no matter what the economy is doing. They are also highly fragmented, meaning thousands of small independent owners can be bought up one by one and consolidated into a larger, more profitable operation. The industry calls this a roll-up. Take veterinary care. Research has documented that private equity-backed corporations now own a substantial and growing share of veterinary clinics in the United States, with some estimates suggesting the figure could reach half within several years. Many clinics keep their original name and signage. The vet you trust might still be the same person. But the pricing decisions behind that clinic may now be controlled by a firm hundreds of miles away. The same pattern shows up in emergency medicine. A study in the Annals of Internal Medicine led by Yale's Zerui Song found that hospitals acquired by private equity firms saw an increase in certain serious medical complications among Medicare patients, alongside higher charges compared to hospitals that were not acquired. The authors noted healthcare data is complicated and ownership is not the only variable, but declining staffing paired with rising charges after acquisition has been documented across multiple studies. Housing tells a similar story. After the 2008 crisis, large firms bought foreclosed homes by the thousands and converted them into rentals, managed at a scale no individual landlord could match. Research has found institutional landlords, including private equity-backed ones, were associated with higher eviction filing rates in several markets compared to smaller landlords. The firms involved generally dispute this, and the research remains actively debated. What makes this different from a typical buyout is the financial structure. Many deals are funded primarily through debt, and that debt is often placed onto the acquired company itself, not the private equity firm doing the buying. The clinic, nursing home, or apartment complex is now responsible for paying down debt it did not choose. If the business cannot generate enough cash flow, the typical response is to cut staff, reduce time with patients, or raise prices. None of this means every acquisition harms the business. Proponents argue private equity can professionalize poorly run businesses and bring capital to industries that need investment, particularly healthcare, where many small practices struggle with outdated systems. Some studies find neutral or even positive outcomes, and the picture varies by firm and deal structure, but the scale is not in dispute. By the early 2020s, private equity firms collectively managed trillions of dollars across the United States, with a growing share flowing into healthcare, housing, and other essential services people assumed were still independently owned. The next time you take your pet to the vet, sign a lease, or sit in an emergency room, there is a reasonable chance that somewhere behind that experience is a spreadsheet in a private equity office, modeling exactly how much profit can be extracted before the next sale happens in 5 to 7 years. Most people will never know the name of the firm involved. That, more than anything else, is the business model. If this made you look at the businesses around you differently, hit follow, because this channel exposes the systems quietly running your daily life every single week. Drop a comment and tell me, has a business you trusted changed since being bought out? And if you know someone who needs to see this, share it with them right now.